Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we cut through the noise and get you informed fast. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a real estate landscape that, well, many experts are calling pivotal, a real make or break year. We're talking about Vietnam in 2025.
Mm,
And this isn't just another calendar flip. It feels like a really high-stakes arena, where a single misstep could lead to pretty significant setbacks.
absolutely.
But get it right, and a well-calculated move could genuinely see your assets double, maybe even faster than you'd think.
The pace is dizzying.
Yeah, the pace of change is truly dizzying, and the potential returns or the losses couldn't be higher.
And that really frames the core mission of this deep dive, doesn't it?
It does.
We're here to dissect five crucial new policies.
Mhm.
Policies that are fundamentally reshaping Vietnam's property market, right from the ground up. Our goal is to equip you, our listener, with practical, actionable strategies, for safe, smart, and ultimately sustainable investment during this incredibly dynamic period. And we're also going to tackle a question many of you, especially maybe our international audience, have asked.
Which is?
Why Vietnamese real estate often feels so, well, uniquely expensive,
Yeah.
so distinct compared to Western markets.
Precisely. So if you're thinking about investing in real estate, or maybe you already own property in Vietnam, this deep dive isn't just beneficial, it's pretty essential.
Couldn't agree more.
Because 2025 isn't just a recovery phase after the recent downturn.
No, it's much bigger than that.
It signals the beginning of a complete top-to-bottom market overhaul, a restructuring.
Yeah, the old ways of operating, they're out.
Totally. It's a
Good.
completely new game. So let's kick things off. There's this strong consensus building, right, among financial folks, real estate experts,
Yep.
that 2025 represents a real paradigm shift for Vietnam's property sector.
Mm-hmm.
But what specific forces are converging? What makes this year so critical? Why all the buzz?
Well, what's truly compelling about this period, I think, is the confluence of these profound shifts. We're looking at a powerful synergy
Energy of what exactly?
of significant policy changes, incredibly ambitious macroeconomic strategies, and entirely new legal and urban planning frameworks coming online.
Okay, so multiple big things happening at once.
Exactly. And this creates a kind of dual potential for investors.
Right. Opportunity and risk.
Precisely.
Huh.
On one hand, for those who are astute enough, to identify and seize these emerging opportunities, the potential for substantial asset growth, maybe even doubling existing assets within, say, a few quarters.
Right.
That's very real.
Wow. Doubling.
But on the other hand, for individuals or entities who either overlook these early signals or maybe misinterpret them
Or just stick to the old ways.
or cling to outdated models, yeah, the risks are equally substantial. We're talking about the very real possibility of illiquidity,
Getting stuck.
getting stuck,
Mhm.
significant capital loss, or being saddled with assets that, frankly, become unsellable.
Ouch.
So this isn't just a post-crisis bounce-back year. 2025 marks the fundamental beginning of a comprehensive market recalibration.
A restructuring, like you said.
It's where the old ways of doing business, the speculative investment models of the past, they're actively being phased out, making way for new rules, new realities. The entire market is undergoing a foundational transformation.
Now, here's where things get truly interesting, I think. We saw some pretty significant strategic decisions from that extraordinary National Assembly session earlier this year,
That was key.
particularly the restart of nuclear power projects and the official approval of a major high-speed railway. What kind of signal do these massive infrastructure commitments send to the real estate market?
Okay, so if we zoom out and connect these dots to the broader economic picture, the reactivation of the nuclear power project, it's an unequivocal statement
A statement about what?
about Vietnam's deep commitment to developing heavy industry and essential infrastructure. It's not just about electricity, you see.
It's about stability.
It's about guaranteeing a stable and abundant energy supply, which is, well, fundamental for sustained economic growth and, by direct extension, robust real estate demand in major cities and those burgeoning industrial zones.
Makes sense. And the railway.
Simultaneously, the approval of the high-speed railway connecting Lao Cai to Haiphong, that's poised to become a vital new transport artery in northern Vietnam.
A new backbone.
Exactly. This strategic route will dynamically link critical industrial areas, major seaports, significant commercial centers. Once it's fully operational, we anticipate a considerable real estate surge,
Where specifically?
particularly for industrial land and satellite urban projects stretching along that entire corridor. Provinces like Yanbai, Laokai, Haidiang.
Places maybe not historically seen as hotspots.
Precisely. They're now strategically positioned for substantial development because of this connectivity.
And an 8% GDP growth target for 2025. That's an incredibly ambitious declaration from the National Assembly.
It certainly is. Bold.
How does a target like that truly translate into concrete potential for real estate? And I mean, what are the biggest hurdles to actually achieving it?
The question.
And how might those challenges specifically impact real estate? Are certain segments more vulnerable if that target isn't met?
Right. It is indeed an aspirational target, but it's far more than just, political rhetoric.
Okay.
This 8% GDP growth objective forms the very basis for strong, expansive stimulus policies across the entire economy. Think about it. If Vietnam achieves a GDP exceeding $500 billion, it would solidify its standing as a rapidly urbanizing emerging economy, highly attractive for foreign direct investment, FDI.
Which fuels everything else.
It creates a powerful thrust across all real estate segments, commercial, industrial, residential. Why? Because it directly boosts public investment, attracts significant private capital flows, and crucially,
What's a crucial part?
it enhances the general populace's capacity and, importantly, their desire to accumulate assets. And for Vietnamese citizens, real estate consistently remains the top choice for wealth preservation, for growth.
Okay, but the hurdles. What could stop that 8%?
Well, achieving such an ambitious target requires, frankly, impeccable execution across multiple sectors, any significant global economic headwinds.
Like a global slowdown.
Exactly. Or unforeseen supply chain disruptions, internal delays in policy implementation. Those could pose challenges.
And if the target isn't met, which parts of real estate suffer most?
The segments most vulnerable would likely be speculative projects, those lacking strong fundamentals, or projects heavily reliant on rapid top-down infrastructure completion that might get delayed.
Makes sense.
Conversely, segments driven by genuine end-user demand, like affordable housing in well-planned urban areas, they'd likely be more resilient. The emphasis really has to be on disciplined, efficient deployment of capital and resources.
Okay, finally on this outlook part. What about the cultural, maybe symbolic element? It's the year of the golden snake, a tune in the lunar calendar. Does feng shui genuinely play a role here, or is it more just cultural flavor?
It's definitely a cultural overlay, but one that's imbued with deep symbolic meaning.
Sure.
And it resonates significantly within the Vietnamese market and certainly among investors.
So it matters, even if indirectly?
It matters. In feng shui, the golden snake embodies intelligence, flexibility, the wisdom to adapt. But it also carries a warning.
Oh.
Hidden dangers. The need for caution. Its ability to shed its skin for rebirth is a potent metaphor for the market's current transformation.
Shedding the old ways.
Exactly. Outdated investment models, speculative practices are being shed, making way for more modern, cash flow optimized, sustainable approaches. But like any snake,
It has venom.
it also carries venom. This symbolizes a crucial warning. Acting without proper knowledge, succumbing to impulsiveness, chasing those speculative short-term trends that can be poisonous to your investment portfolio.
So transformation and caution, both.
Absolutely. It signifies a year of profound transformation and renewal, but equally it's a year that demands meticulous caution, thorough due diligence, and highly informed decision-making.
Okay, so we've talked about this ambitious 8% GDP target, getting over $500 billion GDP as a primary engine. Let's bring that down to earth a bit. What does this robust economic momentum really mean for the everyday person looking to buy or invest? What's the immediate practical impact?
Well, this economic momentum, it translates directly into increased investment activity across all sectors. It drives rapid development in construction and industry.
Right.
And critically, it sparks a significant surge in demand for asset accumulation from the populace, with real estate, as we said, firmly remaining the preferred channel for storing wealth, ensuring long-term financial security.
And there's that urbanization piece, too.
Oh, absolutely. Adding to this, the Ministry of Construction's strategic plan, increasing the urban population from 40% to 45% by 2030, that's a colossal driver.
How many people is that?
This demographic shift implies approximately 1 million people will migrate to major cities annually.
Wow, 1 million a year.
This isn't just a statistic. It represents Vietnam's largest urban migration wave in modern history.
So the demand for housing must be huge.
Think about the sheer scale of the impact. If we conservatively estimate that just 2 people require 1 separate living space,
Okay.
Vietnam needs at least 500,000 new housing units, apartments, townhouses, even rental rooms every single year.
500,000 units a year.
To put that in perspective, that's like needing the housing capacity of a new mid-sized European capital city, built annually, just to keep pace.
Those numbers really do put the scale of demand into perspective, but it seems like the days when any real estate investment was a guaranteed win are, well, they're over.
They are indeed.
The market's getting selective. So, from your perspective, what are the clear, hot, and maybe cold segments right now? Where should people be focusing attention or maybe actively avoiding?
That's a highly astute observation. Market differentiation is absolutely critical now. Take NAFO townhouses. We're seeing a notable decline in their value, particularly in central areas,
Why is that?
primarily due to evolving consumer behavior. The rise of e-commerce, for example, has significantly reduced demand for those traditional commercial rental spaces. The ground floor shopfront isn't as essential.
Ah, so the business value is down?
Exactly. That once made central townhouses so valuable. On the flip side, Kanhome apartments. They are unequivocally the rising star in urban housing,
Especially in the big cities.
especially within major metropolitan hubs. Hanoi, Ho Chi Minh City, Da Nang, Binh Duong, Vung Tau. We've witnessed impressive price increases. Reports indicate what? A remarkable 40–50% surge in Hanoi
40 to 50% in 1 year.
and 30% in Ho Chi Minh City in 2024 alone. This upward trajectory is fueled by genuine, organic demand.
Real people needing homes.
Real demand that sharply contrasts with the tight supply, which is largely a consequence of those legal and project approval delays that have stifled new construction.
Okay, apartments hot, central townhouses maybe less so. What about land plots?
Oh, none. Historically a favorite, especially for speculators. But they now face significant pressure.
From the new land law.
Primarily, yes.
Right.
The new law restricts subdivision in less developed urban areas, specifically Type 3 urban areas and above.
What does that mean practically?
It makes legally clear land plots much scarcer, which, consequently, pushes up prices for legitimate parcels.
Ah,
But it simultaneously increases liquidity risk for those lacking proper legal standing. You might have land, but if you can't legally divide or build on it easily, it's hard to sell.
so what's a key insight here for someone considering land plots?
The game for land plots has fundamentally shifted. That's the main takeaway. You need to prioritize legally clear land in areas with confirmed infrastructure plans and strong underlying demand drivers,
And be patient.
and be prepared for a multi-year hold. Short-term speculation on ambiguous or legally murky plots, that's now a high-stakes gamble with considerable risk.
Okay, good warning. Let's reconnect with that massive infrastructure push we discussed earlier. How exactly does this unprecedented investment translate directly into higher real estate values? And what specific types of projects should investors be watching?
Right, it's more intricate than just simple cause and effect. The reactivated nuclear power projects, for instance, they aren't just about energy.
They provide the foundation.
They guarantee stable, long-term power for large cities, key industrial zones, providing the essential foundation for continued urban and industrial expansion. Then the Lao Cai Hanoi Haiphong high-speed railway, now officially approved, it will create entirely new transport networks, dramatically boosting the economic potential of provinces like Yanbai, Lao Cai, Haidian,
By linking them in.
by integrating them more tightly into the national economic fabric. We're also seeing completion of critical interregional expressways, urban metros.
Like the ones in Hanoi and HCMC.
Exactly. Non Hanoi, Bon Tan, Sui Tien. These projects lead to substantial property value increases in connected areas because they drastically improve accessibility, reduce travel times,
And spur business activity.
and spur significant commercial and residential activity along their routes. Absolutely. But what's critical to grasp is that 2025's real estate market, it's not for the faint of heart or the uninformed.
Needs careful navigation.
It's undergoing a rigorous purification process, a natural market correction that's systematically weeding out unsustainable practices and, frankly, some players. Only those who truly grasp the evolving policy landscape, understand the new market rules, and select the right segments with foresight. Only they will genuinely seize the emerging opportunities.
Yeah, and the others.
A lack of knowledge or impulsive investing based on outdated assumptions that could lead to significant financial losses. The successful investor today must act with strategic precision.
We've mapped out the macro landscape, pinpointed where demand is surging. But the real game changers, right? The forces dictating who wins and who faces headwinds, they're always rooted in policy.
Oh.
And Vietnam is rolling out not one, but 5 crucial policy pillars, completely rewriting the rules for real estate. Let's start with the legal front. Three essential new laws now in effect, creating what you called a new rule book. What's changing? How does it impact developers and buyers?
You've hit on the absolute bedrock of this transformation. The amended land law, the housing law, the real estate business law, all active since late last year. Collectively, they form this new rulebook.
And their effect.
Their immediate effects are far-reaching, significantly increased transparency in all transactions, streamlined processes for developers navigating approvals, and most importantly, fundamentally enhanced protection for home buyers,
Especially early on.
particularly in initial transactions and long-term project commitments. This legal purification is creating a more stable, predictable environment. We're observing a kind of natural market cleansing. Developers lacking clear legal standing or, frankly, the capacity to implement their projects are being systematically phased out.
Survival of the fittest, legally speaking.
In a way, this crucial shift promotes financially sound, sustainable, long-term investors, and it lays a vital foundation for the next robust growth cycle.
Are there other specific legal pieces to watch?
Yes, Resolution 171 is particularly noteworthy. It facilitates the experimental development of both commercial and social housing, offering strong incentives. And the government has set that ambitious target, building 1 million social housing units by 2030.
That's a huge number.
It's monumental,
Mhm.
and it's backed by land incentives, direct financial aid, significantly simplified administrative procedures. This opens up a truly massive opportunity for affordable housing, addressing a critical need for millions.
What about other models?
Well, 2025 also marks the reintroduction and reinforcement of the build transfer, or BT, model within the amended investment law.
Where developers build infrastructure for land.
Exactly. Businesses invest in public infrastructure projects in exchange for land use rights. It has a proven track record. Think of Sumuhung Urban Area, Nguyen Van Lean Road, and HCMC.
Iconic projects.
Incredibly successful BT projects. This model particularly benefits financially capable developers with a long-term vision. It encourages synchronized development of comprehensive satellite cities, complete with integrated infrastructure, planned amenities.
And then there's that administrative reform piece. Merging ministries, potentially changing district government.
Right. And it's ongoing and, yes, admittedly controversial in some aspects, but the overarching aim is clear. Cultivate a leaner, more effective, more responsive administration.
Cutting red tape.
Drastically simplifying processes. Land management, urban planning, construction licensing, reducing processing times in those project running, risks the bureaucratic hurdles, overlapping regulations, indefinite delays that historically plagued projects. But what's crucial here, while these reforms undeniably present immense opportunities for the well-informed, the agile investor,
There's a flip side.
they simultaneously pose significant risks for those slow to adapt, maybe investing in the wrong segments or lacking a deep understanding of these policy shifts.
So the question for our listener is...
Are you aligning your strategy with this new policy current, or are you at risk of being swept away by it?
That's a powerful question. Let's talk about the money specifically, the credit. We've seen promises of massive credit packages before, like that largely unsuccessful 120 trillion VND package.
Disbursement was tiny.
Right, only about 1% was actually dispersed. What makes this new 145 trillion VND package different? Is it just more the same, or is there a fundamental shift?
That's a critical distinction, and it goes right to the heart of why the previous package failed.
Which was?
The root cause wasn't a lack of demand from buyers. It was a severe scarcity of legally clear projects eligible for loans.
Ah, the legal bottlenecks again.
Developers were caught in this quagmire. Legal issues with land acquisition, investment licenses, inconsistent planning, capital got frozen, projects stalled.
So what's different now?
The good news is the landscape is fundamentally changing.
Yeah.
The new 145 trillion VND credit package launched early April 2025.
It's not only significantly larger, but it also boasts broader participation.
More banks involved. Beyond the 4 state-owned banks, 5 major commercial banks, PP Bank, VP Bank, N Bank, Techcom Bank, HD Bank, have committed substantial limits. The total commitment is actually exceeding 145 trillion VND now. It's colossal.
And the terms for buyers.
The most compelling feature for home buyers is the attractive low interest rates, hovering around 4.85%.
That's low.
It's a significant 1.52 percentage points lower than typical commercial rates, highly appealing for genuine home buyers, and it simultaneously eases financial pressure on eligible developers.
But why might this package succeed where the last one failed?
What's truly transformative here? Its potential success is directly intertwined with the improved legal framework we just discussed.
The new laws clearing the path.
Exactly. The three new laws mean many previously stalled social housing projects can now complete their legal procedures and become eligible for this preferential funding. This synchronization, clearer legal pathways, plus readily available preferential capital. That's the decisive key. It could unlock a large-scale social housing boom over the next 2-3 years.
Sounds promising. Any warnings or caveats?
Absolutely. This opportunity isn't without caveats. For buyers, rigorous due diligence is paramount, non-negotiable.
Check everything.
You must verify the project's legality, ensure robust bank guarantees are in place, confirm government support, meticulously check all legal procedures are fully completed, and there's the debt trap to consider.
Ah, the interest rates don't stay low forever.
Exactly. Those attractive low rates are typically for a limited period, often just the first 5 years. After that, market rates apply.
So plan carefully.
Careful financial planning, stress testing your repayment capacity, understanding the long-term commitment,
Yeah.
crucial to avoid difficulties later. So yes, a golden opportunity perhaps, but potentially a financial trap if you don't calculate meticulously and understand all the terms.
Okay, rules and money covered. Pillar 3. Infrastructure. You called it the blood vessels, pumping life into specific areas. How monumental is the shift in government commitment? What are the tangible benefits investors should track?
This is truly a monumental shift in national strategy. The planned 87 trillion VND for infrastructure disbursement in 2025.
Wow.
Highest figure ever allocated in a single year.
Highest ever.
And it's not just about spending money. It represents a determined, concerted effort to fundamentally transform Vietnam's national transport infrastructure, to definitively resolve those long-standing bottlenecks in urban logistics and industrial development.
The things holding back growth.
The three core pillars intrinsically linked to real estate growth. In previous years, public investment disbursement was a perennial headache, often reaching only 50–60% of targets.
Right. Lots of plans, less action sometimes.
But this year feels different. And the reason lies in the government's unprecedented resolve. Those extraordinary National Assembly sessions, fast-tracking major laws, infrastructure decisions.
Shows real political will.
It's a clear testament to a strong political will to address systemic issues that have lingered for years. As the General Secretary has refutedly emphasized, if something is unreasonable, amend the law. If the law isn't suitable, adjust it. Institutional obstacles, boldly change them. And this 2025 infrastructure investment is the clearest manifestation of that commitment.
Can you give some concrete examples? Where is this money going?
Sure. In Ho Chi Minh City, 20 major transport projects have secured robust funding. At least 10 brand new ones starting in Q2, including strategic sections of Ring Roads 2 and 3.
Crucial for expansion.
Absolutely crucial for urban expansion, developing new satellite cities. Plus, Metro Line 1, Bun Tan Sui Tien, is nearing completion. Its impact will be transformative, turning areas along its route into gold land, prized for connectivity, reduced commute times.
And in the north.
The officially approved Lao Cai Hanoi Haiphong Railway opens up entirely new possibilities for those previously less noticed provinces, Yen Bai, Lao Cai, Haidian, particularly fueling growth in land plots, satellite urban areas, industrial real estate, integrating them into key economic corridors.
So infrastructure boosts prices, but it's not automatic everywhere.
Exactly. While infrastructure development almost invariably boosts land prices, the critical question for savvy investors is where and when.
Timing and location.
Successful investors don't just follow the crowd, they anticipate. This means understanding that true value emerges from a combination of factors.
Such as?
Excellent connectivity, yes, but also an existing or rapidly growing population, reasonable land funds, solid urban planning, clear legality, and importantly, a reputable developer.
So not just buying on rumors.
Definitely not. As a veteran investor once wisely remarked, don't buy land where there are rumors of a road. Buy where lampposts are up, people have moved in, and construction signs are planted.
See the actual progress.
See the progress. So the key insight here for you is strategic infrastructure investments are creating distinct, high-growth corridors. Your focus should be on identifying specific projects within these corridors that are beyond the rumor stage, ideally with visible development and clear legal backing.
So the question shifts.
The question for you now isn't simply, should I invest in 2025? It's where? And according to which concrete infrastructure scenario are you going to focus your efforts for maximum leverage?
Let's shift focus to one of the biggest historical headaches: slow project licensing. It clogged supply, inflated prices for years.
Whoa.
What's finally changing in 2025 to clear this logjam, to get new supply to market faster?
Historically, it was grueling.
often interminable. Projects mired in dozens of departments, caught between overlapping regulations, land legal issues, endless inspections, indefinite costly delays.
Nightmare for developers.
And buyers waiting for supply.
Hmm.
But 2025 heralds a profoundly positive shift. The new land law, housing law, real estate business law, the amended public investment law, they collectively establish a far clearer, more transparent, predictable legal framework.
Clear rules.
For the first time, regulations governing cases requiring auctions, bidding, or direct investor assignments are clearly delineated. This significantly reduces indecision, that tendency for agencies to pass the buck.
And the administrative reforms.
On top of this, intense administrative reforms started late 2024, continuing into Q2 2025 with local departments following suit. They've already significantly sped up document processing, streamlining management points, drastically shortening time from application to approval to licensing.
What are the direct benefits of this speed up?
Profound benefits. Faster licensing means earlier market entry of much-needed supply, frees up developers' capital, offers more choices to consumers, significantly increases overall market liquidity.
And liquidity helps prices.
Higher liquidity generally tends to stabilize prices, reduces that artificial scarcity caused by perceived shortages.
Any examples of this working already?
A clear, compelling example is Resolution 170. It's been instrumental in actively unblocking dozens of stalled projects in major centers like HCMC, Da Nang, Con Hoa. Major developers Novaland, Hung Tin, Him Lam are seeing projects rescued from prolonged inspections or land price disputes. And crucially,
The Red Book.
a property with a clear red book, the land use rights certificate, is always inherently more valuable, significantly easier to sell, far simpler to mortgage. This isn't just administrative streamlining, it's a strategic push reshaping the market's heartbeat. Clear legal status, timely approvals. It creates a healthy, efficient value chain.
Developers sell, investors buy, banks lend, consumers find homes.
Exactly. Fosters a truly healthy, dynamic market.
Yeah.
So the key insight for you now is demand transparency and clear legal status. This new environment drastically reduces risks for compliant projects, but exposes those with unclear legal backing. Prioritize properties with a confirmed red book or from developers with a track record of legal clarity.
So the choice is,
Are you ready to embrace this new supply, carefully selecting products with clear legal backing? Or will you still be swayed by rumors and risk getting stuck in dead-end, legally ambiguous projects?
okay, the fifth policy. The linchpin, you called it. And arguably the one causing the most anxiety. New real estate taxation proposals. This feels like it could fundamentally reshape investor behavior, redefine the whole game.
Absolutely. This is where the state shifts from just regulating the market to actively influencing investor behavior. The Ministry of Finance has put forth a draft proposal, tax income from real estate transfers based on the holding period.
How would that work?
The mechanism is designed to strongly discourage short-term speculation. A high tax, potentially up to 100% of the profit, for very short-term sales, say within months or a year.
Ouch. That kills flippin'.
It's intended to. This tax rate would then gradually decrease for longer holding periods, 2, 3, 5+ years.
So it rewards holding long term.
Precisely. It encourages long-term, value-driven investment over quick, speculative flipping. It's not a new idea. It's a model used successfully in places like Singapore, Canada, South Korea.
And it signals.
It clearly signals the definitive end of real estate as that super profitable, no knowledge needed short-term game.
What about undeveloped land? Hoarding land?
Also being tackled.
Yeah.
The new Land Law 2025 introduces particularly stringent rules here. Land granted to developers must be developed within 24 months. Very limited exceptions.
And if they don't?
Failure means the land is recovered by the state, without compensation for land use rights. This decisively ends that long-standing practice of hoarding land, holding it purely for speculative price hikes without actually developing.
What about individuals leaving land idle?
New penalties are being introduced there too.
Yeah.
For individuals or organizations leaving land idle for specified periods, maybe 12, 24 months, depending on land type location, leads to significant administrative fines and, for continued violation, potential land recovery.
So the overall goal of all these tax and land use changes.
Unequivocal. Foster a healthier, more sustainable real estate market, where asset value genuinely reflects its utility, its contribution to the economy, its long-term potential, rather than being driven solely by speculative unearned gains.
So investors need to shift strategy.
It mandates a significant strategic shift. The question for you becomes, will you continue chasing short-term flips, now highly penalized? or fundamentally shift towards long-term investments in projects with genuine, demonstrable growth potential over 3 to 5 years, focusing on real value creation.
The trend seems clear, even if details are debated.
The underlying trend, yes, is crystal clear. The state is moving from project-by-project management to investor behavior-based management. When short-term speculation is heavily taxed and undeveloped land recovered, only those committed to sustainable long-term strategies will truly survive and thrive.
Okay, after dissecting Vietnam's intricate 2025 outlook, let's maybe zoom out a bit. Many listeners, especially those from Western countries, often express, well, bewilderment. Why do real estate prices in Vietnam, say a townhouse in a seemingly ordinary area like Koloa, appear disproportionately high compared to homes in the US or Europe?
That's a common question.
What's the fundamental cultural fabric driving this stark difference? How does it shape urban development?
What's truly fascinating here is that the core difference lies deep in cultural orientation. Vietnamese and broadly Eastern culture is profoundly community-based.
Community-based.
This societal ethos emphasizes close family ties, immediate proximity to neighbors, collective living arrangements. This naturally leads to the prevalence of high-density housing, terraced houses, nalinka, where homes are built right next to each other, often sharing walls, communal spaces.
Compared to the West?
Contrast that with Western individualistic culture. The paramount priority there is often personal privacy, frequently enabled by vast land availability. This results in a preference for detached homes, significantly less dense residential areas.
You don't see rows of terrace houses as much.
You'd struggle to find them as the dominant type in most Western suburbs. Instead, in the West, where individual privacy and clear property boundaries are highly valued, uninvited access isn't typically welcomed. A stark contrast to the often more fluid communal neighborhood interactions in Vietnam, where, neighbors' pets might roam between properties.
So culture literally shapes the buildings and density.
This fundamental cultural difference profoundly shapes the physical form and density of cities, and consequently, directly impacts property values.
This brings us to where the financial mechanics truly diverge. How do governments in Vietnam fund themselves from real estate? And what does that imply about the very concept of true ownership compared to the West? It feels like a completely different financial game.
Indeed, it's a crucial distinction. It alters the very essence of property ownership. The Vietnamese government relies quite heavily on real estate for a significant portion of its revenue.
How?
Income flows primarily through personal income tax on property transfers, land conversion taxes, that substantial fee for converting agricultural or garden land to residential, and, very significantly, through large-scale land auctions, which serve as a primary substantial source of budget income.
So property is a direct government revenue stream.
A direct and substantial one. In Vietnam, real estate isn't just a private asset, it's woven into state finance.
How does that contrast with the West, like the U.S.?
In stark contrast, Western countries like the U.S. primarily generate government real estate income through an annual property excise tax, property tax.
Paid every year.
Every single year, based on the asset's assessed value, often ranging from, say, 0.75% to 3% annually in the U.S.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine a $1 million house in the U.S., roughly 20 billion VND. That property could incur an annual property tax of around 400 million VND.
Yeah.
Every year.
Wow, that adds up.
It does. And this annual tax, combined with often very high inheritance taxes, South Korea's can reach 50%, remember the Samsung case,
Right.
it makes multi-generational real estate inheritance exceedingly difficult in the West. If heirs can't generate enough income to cover those annual property taxes or the huge inheritance tax bill,
Forced to sell.
frequently forced to sell the property.
So this brings us to that real ownership debate. Vietnamese land certificates say long-term use. Western ones say ownership. But financially?
Financially, it's almost paradoxical. Vietnam arguably offers a more tangible multi-generational ownership. Why? Because there are no annual property taxes or inheritance taxes on the asset itself.
Whereas in the West?
In the West, non-payment of even a portion of that annual property tax, say, it accumulates to 10% of the property's value, can lead directly to government seizure.
So it's conditional ownership.
It implies that in the West, your ownership is, in effect, more like a long-term lease from the state, conditional on continuous tax payments. Fail to pay, the state can seize it, making true multi-generational inheritance a significant financial challenge.
And those Western property taxes fund local services.
Exactly. They're not free money. They directly fund vital local public services, schools, police, fire departments. Essentially, owners of valuable properties pay taxes that directly benefit the entire community.
That truly reframes the whole concept of ownership and what it means for long-term wealth. It also brings us to those misleading comparisons people make.
Oh, yeah.
Comparing, say, a remote Western suburban home to a central Hanoi apartment. It just feels like apples and oranges. Why is that comparison so flawed?
Fundamentally misleading due to extreme differences in population density and inherent land availability. Vietnam's major city, Hanoi, 9 million people in just over 3,300 square kilometers, HCMC. Similar density, they're incredibly dense.
Compared to...
Compare that to, say, California, 39 million people, but spread over 424,000 square kilometers.
Yeah.
Roughly 10 times larger area for only about 4 times Hanoi's population.
Density drives prices sky high.
This extreme population density within relatively small urban footprints in Vietnam fundamentally drives up land prices to astonishing levels. What's more, and this is crucial, in Vietnam, real estate acts as the primary store of value for the vast majority.
Unlike the West with stocks, funds, etc.
Exactly. Unlike Western economies with diverse liquid financial instruments, stocks, index funds, corporate bonds, there's a perceived and often actual lack of trustworthy liquid alternative investment channels here.
Stock market trust issues, gold volatility.
The stock market has struggled with trust due to past manipulations, lack of transparency. Gold, while traditional, can be volatile. This scarcity of reliable alternatives funnels the vast majority of personal savings, idle capital,
Straight into property.
directly into real estate, making it the #1 choice for asset accumulation, value preservation, precisely because it doesn't incur those ongoing annual taxes we just discussed.
Which brings us to this critical idea. Real estate in Vietnam isn't just property. It's like a valve controlling the flow of money for the entire economy. Can you elaborate on that valve effect? Its implications.
It's an incredibly apt analogy for how the Vietnamese economy functions. When real estate values are appreciating, the market's vibrant. It creates a powerful wealth effect, ripples throughout society, encouraging consumption, further investment.
Money starts moving.
Money flows into construction, interiors, labor, logistics, media, banking, fueling overall GDP growth. And the developers, they become major conduits, largely capitalized by societal funds, bank loans, corporate bonds, stock issuance, pre-sales from customers. They are, in essence, the main pumps pushing money through this economic valve.
But what happens when the market stalls, like 2022, 2024?
Conversely, when the market stalls, as we saw vividly then, this valve effectively gets stuck, constricts, money stops flowing freely.
And the impact.
Directly leads to stalled construction projects, widespread business failures, rising unemployment, that pervasive societal feeling of lack of money, even if the total amount hasn't fundamentally changed.
People hoard cash.
People, faced with uncertainty, pull money from the market, hoard cash, deposit into savings, further slowing down economic circulation.
And who benefits most when the valve is open?
Well, while the wealth effect benefits many indirectly, it's often the large real estate corporations owning the most property, adept at leveraging societal capital, who ultimately benefit most directly when this valve functions optimally, rather than maybe the average citizen buying just one property.
Underscores why the government focuses on keeping it working.
Exactly. Keeping it working smoothly, but also sustainably. That's the current challenge.
So given this overwhelming pressure on big cities, the sky-high prices, what concrete steps is the government planning to address this uneven urbanization, maybe disperse the population?
The government's employing a robust, two-pronged strategy.
Okay, prong one.
At the top-down level, a series of short-term pressure relief policies, targeted price controls where needed, and crucially, that massive acceleration of social housing development.
The 1 million unit goal.
The 1 million units by 2030 goal, strongly supported by that 120 trillion VND preferential credit package. But beyond just building more homes, there's an undeniable emphasis on modern public transport.
More than just roads.
As an absolute necessity, road expansion alone, as anyone in peak hour Hanoi or HCMC traffic knows, it isn't enough.
So mass transit.
The sustainable solution lies in sophisticated mass transit. Metros, bus rapid transit, BRT, electric buses, public bike schemes, moving vast numbers efficiently. Hanoi, for example. Only one operational metro line now, Cat Linh Ha Long. But an ambitious plan for 6 additional lines over 300 kilometers is firmly in place.
Integrating tech, too.
Efforts to integrate smart tech-free Wi-Fi at bus stops, clean energy vehicles to enhance urban mobility.
What about those big ring roads?
Another massive project designed to reduce inner-city congestion and proactively foster satellite urban development is Ring Road 4.
How big is that?
Strategic lever. Over 112 kilometers, over 85 trillion V&D investment, aiming for 2027 completion. Critical for diverting heavy traffic, opening new development corridors. Hanoi is taking a highly proactive role in its coordination.
Okay, that's pressure relief. What's the second prong, the root cause solution?
The true root cause solution lies in a broader strategy of population dispersal. Jindan.
Yeah.
Fundamentally involves creating substantial job opportunities outside the core urban centers of Hanoi and HCMC, incentivizing people to live and work in surrounding satellite cities.
Shifting to multipolar development.
Exactly. Hanoi remains a core, but strategic satellite provinces are actively developed. Bac Ninh as a tech hub, Hanam as a university medical hub, as outlined in Resolution 30 on Red River Delta development.
Is there a specific plan for Hanoi satellites?
Yes, the Hanoi Capital Region Master Plan 24/5/2065 delineates 5 planned satellite urban areas around Hanoi, each with a unique identity, specialized function.
Like?
Hoalak for high-tech, Sante for culture tourism, Xuanmai for education, and Fujian for industrial logistics, Soksun for airport transport. A clear departure from Hanoi's historical Seoul development focus.
But connectivity is key for that to work.
Absolutely crucial. Strong interprovincial, interregional transport links, Ring Roads 4 and 5, the North-South High-Speed Railway, that interprovincial Hanoi-Haiphong high-speed train cutting travel to under 50 minutes. They're essential.
To make live in province, work in city viable.
A practical reality. Drawing parallels to successful models in China and Japan. Hanoi specifically targets dispersing 120,000 residents annually from its inner city, building 20-30,000 social housing units in peripheral areas. Taking cues from HCMC's success with Fu City, this demands a fundamental shift in urban planning philosophy, moving beyond just reducing housing prices to strategically restructuring the entire national development space.
So for our listeners, how does this population dispersal translate into identifiable opportunities? Are there specific types of projects or satellite areas that are clear beneficiaries right now?
Absolutely. This strategic push points directly towards identifying developers with strong track records and established presence in these planned satellite areas.
Look for the specialists in those zones.
Specifically, look for projects focused on high-tech parks, education hubs, or logistics centers. Their growth is now directly state-backed, aligned with this long-term vision. These areas are poised for significant appreciation, not just from residential demand, but from the industrial and commercial growth following job creation.
So follow the infrastructure and the job hubs.
Furthermore, understanding the specific infrastructure scenarios, which ring roads, which metro lines, which high-speed rail sections are prioritized, lets you pinpoint the exact localities set for accelerated development and higher property values. It's about getting ahead of the curve, not just following it.
Makes sense. Beyond urban planning, how does the government plan to address real estate's dominant role as that money valve? What proactive strategies are there to rebalance the financial flow, ensure a more diversified, resilient economy?
This is perhaps the most critical long-term strategy. For sustainable development, preventing future bubbles. First, key direction. Proactively open, transparent, safe, truly reliable alternative investment channels.
Like fixing the stock market issues.
The stock market desperately needs major reforms. Combat manipulation, insider trading, price rigging. Building public trust is paramount to make it a viable, attractive, long-term vehicle for individual savers.
And bonds.
Similarly, for corporate and government bonds, restoring investor trust after past crises is essential. Establishing truly independent credit rating systems. Standardizing financial reporting for accuracy. Significantly strengthening legal protection for individual investors.
What about funds, like ETFs?
Furthermore, there's a strong push to develop a professional, sophisticated financial ecosystem. Investment funds, open-ended, pension ETFs, allowing small investors to participate in diversified, expertly managed portfolios.
Like S&P 500 funds in the U.S.
Much like those, yes, which have historically yielded maybe 7–9% annually. A secure, professionally managed alternative to property speculation.
And financial literacy plays a role.
Ultimately, nationwide financial literacy programs, education, paramount. A sustained effort to shift the public mindset from land is the only safe bet, toward understanding asset diversification, risk management, long-term investing across a broader range of instruments.
Okay, that's creating alternatives. What's the second direction for rebalancing the valve?
The second strategic direction, directly related, rigorously tighten credit for real estate, effectively locking or at least regulating the flow of speculative capital.
Tackling easy money into property.
The fundamental problem has been excessively easy access to bank credit, often for speculative projects, even using uncompleted land as collateral, undeniably fueling inflated prices. Banks historically favored real estate, perceived low-risk, high-profit margins.
So the solutions involve
The state bank maintaining, potentially increasing caps on real estate lending, particularly targeting speculative loans, not serving genuine housing needs.
stricter mortgage conditions too.
Vital. Demanding frequent, realistic revaluation of collateral, only allowing fully legal, liquid assets as collateral, cracking down decisively on reputation-based or unsecured loans, bypassing proper due diligence.
A nuanced approach for different types of housing.
Yes, a more nuanced approach to credit incentives is proposed. Continue favoring social housing, long-term rentals, genuinely affordable housing with preferential loans. But conversely, restrict lending to luxury segments, commercial townhouses, villas, resorts with higher risk coefficients, shorter maturities,
Redirecting capital to real demand.
explicitly redirecting capital towards meeting real demand, not fueling speculative excess. Finally, a robust interagency supervision system,
Connecting the dots between agencies.
seamless data integration, banking, tax authorities, local government land data, critically needed, to allow real-time detection, prevention of hot money flows, systematic land speculation, that practice of selling unripe fruit, selling projects lacking proper legal completion.
And the outcome of tightening credit.
By systematically tightening credit this way, the flow of hot money into speculative real estate diminishes. Borrowing costs rise for riskier ventures. Conditions become tougher, effectively forcing pure speculators out. This allows the market to cool, rebalance, return to its fundamental role, a place to live, work, build sustainable communities, rather than remaining an unchecked conduit for wealth accumulation at any cost. Hashtag outro.
So what does all of this mean for you, our discerning listener? We've just explored how Vietnam's real estate market in 2025 is undergoing, well, a truly radical transformation.
Radical is the word.
Driven by 5 powerful, interconnected policy pillars: comprehensive legal reforms, massive targeted credit injections, unprecedented infrastructure investment, significantly faster project approvals, and those new, more stringent taxation approaches, meticulously designed to curb speculation.
And this is far more than just, administrative tweaking. It truly represents a completely new rulebook for engaging in this market. For those who invest the time to understand these fundamental shifts, who adapt their strategies with agility, commit to thorough due diligence, this period presents a golden time
Had time to rebalance.
to rebalance portfolios, unlock new opportunities, potentially see significant asset growth. However,
The warning.
for the unwary, the uninformed, or those stubbornly clinging to outdated speculative habits, this could indeed prove to be a remarkably costly period. The key takeaways for navigating this landscape are clear. Cultivate a long-term vision. Develop a deep understanding of evolving policy. Practice disciplined financial planning. Commit to thorough due diligence.
The essentials.
These are the absolute keys not only to survival but to significant sustainable success in this dynamically evolving market.
So the fundamental question for you now, listening in, is no longer if you should consider real estate in 2025.
No, the game has changed.
But where you should focus your attention according to which infrastructure scenario, and most importantly, how will you adapt your personal investment strategy to these profound foundational shifts? Keep learning, keep adapting, and keep thinking critically about the market's continuous evolution.